These are the bones of the pelvic girdle and the femurs that fit into them. So we have these coxal bones here. Okay, and when I say coxal bones, I usually get really confused because it's hard to figure out which way is which. Okay, so when I see them, I first look for the little indentation where the femur sits. So this is called your acetabulum. We'll get to that in a second. But since that is going to be where the femur attaches, that needs to be lateral, right? Okay, because the femur is going to come in here this direction. So we'll put the acetabulums lateral. Then down here at the bottom, to figure out which one's right and which one's left, okay, we have one side that goes around the foramen that is nice and curved, and we have one side that goes around the foramen that is pokey. The pokey side is going to be medial, okay? So acetabulum is lateral, pokey side is medial, and so we end up with a coxal bone just like that, okay? Now, for our bone markings on our coxal bone, first let's talk about the three smaller bones that fuse together to form a coxal bone. Okay, the ilium is the majority of this flattened area up here, okay? The pubis is the bone that makes the pokey side around the foramen, and the ischium is the side that makes the rounded side around the foramen, okay? Next on your list is acetabulum, which again are the sockets for the femur. The next one is auricular surface on your list. It's really articular surface. So it is, let me pull up my figure right here. It is the articular surface of the pubis at pubic symphysis. So it's where the two pubis bones join together here at the pubis symphysis. So it's right there, okay? So this surface right here, the bottom part of the pokey portion, okay? Then you have the obturator foramen. It's the only hole, so he's this guy right here. Then the ischial tuberosity. So ischial makes you think of the ischium. So find the ischial bone, or ischium. And then the ischial tuberosity is this mountain over here, the tuberosity. Okay? Our last three you have to see put together, and it will be easier to find on the articulated skeleton, but I'll go ahead and show you on this guy. Okay, so if they're put together the way they're supposed to be, okay, the pubic arch is down here at the bottom. It's this V or triangle right here. The pubic crests are these guys up here at the top. And the pubic symphysis is this joint where the two pubis bones join together. Okay? Now the femur. I'm going to lay these kind of sideways for you to see. Again, we have a right and a left here, so we need to make sure we know which one's which. Okay, the first thing you do is find your heads, and your heads are always going to point medially. They're going to point in towards that coxal bone that they articulate with, okay? So those are towards the middle. Then you need to figure out the anterior versus posterior side, and for that, I look down here at the bottom of the femur. Okay, so if we look at the two different sides, on the posterior, you have these guys called the condyles, and they're separated from each other. So you've got two enlargements here. On the front, we have the patellar surface, which isn't one you have to know, but it looks like one smooth surface. Okay, so one smooth surface is anterior, two surfaces is posterior. So now I have a right femur and a left femur, okay? Now, our parts of our femur. The heads, we've already said, are these large rounded things up here. Then we have a greater trochanter and a lesser trochanter. You can see them kind of from the anterior surface, but we'll also flip them over so you can see them better. The lesser trochanters are these bumps over here. The greater trochanters are the bumps up here. So let's flip them over. Okay, you can see the greater trochanters better back here, and these are those lesser trochanters. Okay, flip them back to the anterior surface. Okay, the neck is this region right here that holds the head. Okay, makes sense. Okay, then we're gonna move down here to the bottom to our condyles and epicondyles. Again, we're gonna flip it over to the posterior side. Okay, now the condyles are these flattened areas. where it's going to articulate with our tibia. And we just need to know which one is medial and which one is lateral. So always look for your heads up here. The heads are always going to be medial. So that means that this condyle is a medial condyle, and this condyle is a lateral condyle. And on this one, the head is over here, so this one's a medial condyle, and this one is a lateral condyle. Okay, then the enlargements underneath them are called epicondyles. And you can see those from the posterior and the anterior side. So let's start with the posterior where we are here. Okay, again, medial side. So this enlargement here is the medial epicondyle. And this one is the lateral epicondyle. Okay, and on this one, here's the head. So this is the medial epicondyle, and this one is the lateral epicondyle. And then if we flip them over, okay, you can see still the enlargements. So we've got, here's the medial side, medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle. There's the head, medial epicondyle, and lateral epicondyle. And then finally, the last bone marking is your linea aspera, which is just this line that runs down the side of the femur. It's kind of like an enlargement or a little bump on it. Really, it's the only thing we ask you in this region. So if we're pointing to something, it's the linea aspera.